Yeah, and it's also a reminder to be like present as well, because there's the saying, stop and smell the roses. Like
Yes, sir.
you
Yes.
gotta kind of pause for a moment too and enjoy that moment as well, that you have that rose there, that it's still alive.
That's very dope, man, because I never I've done a bunch of interviews for this album, and that was one of the ones I never mentioned. This album started with me in a kind of a bitter place where I feel like I've been doing this at a high level for so long, and I haven't really got the just due that I may feel I deserve. And it's like, give me my roses before I come to your house and dig that shit up and take them. Like, that was the attitude when I first started this album. Yes, sir. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Thanks for making the time to come on the show.
Yeah, man. No worries.
Yeah, I've been a fan of yours for a little while now. I think I discovered you, you know what I mean? Like came across you in the algorithm early on in the pandemic days. But yeah, I'm psyched that you're on the Johnny Rogers show now.
Yes, sir. Let's get it.
Yeah. What is it about Halifax that just breeds so many incredible Canadian rappers? I mean, like you got Classified, you got Pat Stay, yourself. I'm sure there's more.
Yeah, man, I think it's just a very cultural city. It's also a university city. So, we get a lot of different people from all over the world coming here to go to university. KO would be an example of that. And, people bringing different vibes. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I think it's just the culture, man. Like, Nova Scotia has a long, rich history. Um, it's been here before a lot of the other parts of Canada. And I think it's just, we have our own type of culture down here that is different from the rest of Canada. And I think that's just what it is, man. It's just something different in the water down here, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like there is something about like length of history when it comes to like a cultural identity. Like I was having this conversation with someone about Canadian television in general. When you watch Canadian TV, like it kind of feels like awkward. Like it just feels like we haven't really like figured it out yet. Like we're trying to be
Yeah.
America a little bit. But then if you look like British television, it could be a reality show and those people are just like naturally off the cuff, like funny. They
Yeah,
just
yeah.
have they just have something charming about them, whatever it is. Like they're just good on TV.
Uh-huh.
So maybe there's something to that as well when it comes to like culture in Halifax and in the East Coast in general. Is like, yeah, like you said, there's been settlers there for way longer than the majority of Canada.
Yeah. And I mean, like, let's not make any mistake either. Hip hop is a black music, and our
Sure.
black history is very, very rich and extensive and lengthy down here as well. Where it may not as be the same out west. Well, I know it's not the same out west, or different places, Ontario, whatever. So like, I feel like that might have a thing to do with it. Well, it does have a thing to do with it for sure.
Yeah. And when I asked you about the one word for the episode, what word came to mind for you?
Roses, man.
Roses, nice. And I dug it out of my closet. I don't know if it's like Volcom, but it's got a little rose
Okay.
emblem on the shirt. I was like, this will be the perfect episode for that too.
Yes, sir.
So why roses? I know your album that just came out is called Roses, but is there any significance?
Yeah, the album's called Roses, but man, I feel like life is a rose. It's that duality. It's the thorns you have to go through, those hard times where you get cut and have to come back.
Yeah.
Also, the beauty of, the flower at the end of the journey. So it's both of those things. It's joy, pain, it's dark, light, is positive, negative. That's what it is, the duality, man. Rose is a lot like life is.
Yeah, and it's also a reminder to be like present as well, because there's the saying, stop and smell the roses. Like
Yes, sir.
you
Yes.
gotta kind of pause for a moment too and enjoy that moment as well, that you have that rose there, that it's still alive.
That's very dope, man, because I never I've done a bunch of interviews for this album, and that was one of the ones I never mentioned. This album started with me in a kind of a bitter place where I feel like I've been doing this at a high level for so long and I haven't really got the just due that I may feel I deserve. And, it's like, give me my roses before I come to your house and dig that shit up and take them. Like that was the attitude when I first started this album. And then, as you go through the project and you start making other songs, it starts taking on other meanings naturally. And one of the last songs is called Flowers, where I'm actually giving my girl her flowers, and I'm realizing, life is not all about receiving your praise. It's also about giving and being the person that, treating others the way you want to be treated. Or if you feel like you deserve your flowers, then the best place to start is to give others their flowers, be about it type of vibe.
And I think like I've been doing stand-up comedy for about 13 years now. And I think it's also, to go back to the rose analogy, it's also about like planting a rose bed. You know what I mean? Like planting those seeds as well. Like there was something I heard recently and it changed my whole perspective on like chasing success in art. And it was like sometimes we need to plant the seeds for trees that will grow so that others can enjoy the shade that we'll never see.
Mm-hmm. I
And it's like what today you've just planted a seed, and 100 years from now, someone's going to be sitting underneath that tree enjoying the fruits of your labor.
yeah.
But that's why you did it, is because like you're kind of laying this groundwork for what's to come next. Like I met all these amazing people in entertainment and like throughout the years of doing comedy in Toronto and all over Southern Ontario, that I was like, why don't I just start interviewing them on podcasts and kind of archiving these stories and these conversations. And it's like, this might not be a super successful podcast. It might not go anywhere. It might get 50 views for the rest of my life, but like that will at least encourage hopefully someone else to do it better than me, or like to, just try in general and know that there's.
Reminds me of a Tupac quote where he said, "He may not be the man to change the world, but he's gonna spark the mind that will change the world." And I feel like I feel exactly what you're saying too. Even the position I'm in, I've been doing this 18 years. I'm in my 30s now, and I may never be the biggest artist of all time from Nova Scotia, but who knows? Maybe the work I put in or the legacy I leave behind is going to inspire the kid who may be 10 years old right now. And in 20 years, maybe he'll be the biggest thing ever in Halifax, or maybe he'll put the city on a map, in a way we could have never did. So that's just the beauty of it, man. Do it for the process and the culture and the passion. And that's what it is. I feel like if you're doing it for the immediate reward or that instant gratification, you're gonna have a very, very tough journey, and it's probably gonna be cut short in a
You're
lot of.
gonna, I think you're gonna be focused on the thorns of life if
Yeah,
that happens, right?
and
Like you're gonna, every time something bad happens, you're gonna think like, oh, here's another, because our brain is so good at like, if you like, you are what you think, right? Like if you are
sure.
thinking that, oh, I'm never gonna make it in this, and you say that out loud and kind of reaffirm that, your brain is gonna start looking for evidence around you to support that belief.
No, 1000%. I feel like
Yeah.
life is all perception, and our perception is our reality. So like something could happen and I might look at it the positive, someone else might look at it the negative. The same exact thing could have happened. It's all how you choose to view it and how you perceive life. That's your reality. So people that are focused on the negative, that's what is attracted
Mm,
into life, and it's just what it is.
yeah.
It's scientifically proven, man. It's quantum physics, you know?
So whenever someone goes into a passion or an art form, whether it's painting or sculpting or whatever it is, something out of the norm of the usual like 9 to 5, I always find that kind of origin story a little fascinating, because for me, it was a really like crossroads moment of, I knew if I go this way, this is what my life is going to look like. And if I go this way, this is what my life could look like. And I decided to go down the route of like, I'm 19 years old. I'm going to go all in on stand-up comedy. Like I'm just going to go for that, whatever that means, go that way. What was that like for you choosing, and what age really did you choose music as kind of your
Uh,
focus?
Yeah, I would say because I was really, really into sports as a young kid. I played like every sport. And then I would say probably like 12, 13 is when I really started trying to create my own music and jumping on the karaoke machine with friends and recording shit on tape and all that shit. That's when I really first started trying. I was introduced to hip hop like just as a consumer really young. I was lucky. The babysitter I went to up the streets, he had two older sons, like one was 7 years older, one was 10 years older. So I would go there before school at 5, and that would have been the year Doggy Style came out, Snoop's first album. I was probably in grade primary, and that's when I was introduced to that shit, and that shit blew my mind. And it was so different than anything my parents were listening to. They were listening to like Bob Seger and Rod Stewart and shit. So to me, I was just drawn to it. And then it wasn't until I was probably, like I said, 12, 13, where I started messing around and trying to write my own lyrics. And one of my friends who I actually played hockey with showed me what an instrumental was. I didn't know how to get the version with no words on it. Like he's like, "Oh, you go to whatever it was then, LimeWire, I think." And he's like, "If you type in instrumental, the beat will come." And then that's how I started figuring out how to get the instrumentals. And then, like I said, just trying my own thing, writing, recording on karaoke machine. And yeah, man, it just all kind of spiraled from there.
Yeah. Now, like, okay, I sort of dabbled into hip hop like a tiny bit. So at the
Yep.
start of the pandemic, all the comedy clubs are closed. So I'm like, and I'm in this awkward phase where I'm, 9 years into stand-up comedy,
Mhm.
all the clubs closed. So I'm proficient at it. Like I know what I'm doing. I'm not an amateur, but I haven't like made it to the point where, any clubs are giving me any real thought of like, let's book this guy for weekends or whatever. I'm still
Yeah.
kind of indie, like doing it myself. So
Mhm.
all the comedy clubs are closed. I start listening to instrumentals. That's what made me think of this.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like muttering words as I was listening to it and as I was working. And then I was like, let me like write some of this like muttering down. And then I started recording it. And then 2 years later, I make this undeniably dope album, like just put it all together and turned it into an album. Um, what was your first song like? Because for me, that like that drive to get that finished, it was like a inner like burning passion where I was like, oh, this is fun. Like I'm having like a lot of fun doing this. And I think along the way we can sort of lose sight of what drives you to just complete a song. You're thinking about streams now, or you're thinking about how many views is this video going to get. And I feel like have you lost sight of that at times, or are you still very much like song by song basis, like it's driving you?
Yeah, I've lost sight of it sometimes. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. I think it was like 2015. We made this song. I made it at a country writer's song camp. Gordie Sampson, he's from here. He wrote Jesus Take the Wheel, like big, big country records. And I was in a session with him, and we made this song called Confessions, and it was pretty organic. You get like 3 hours to make the song. We made it. Anyway, that song ended up doing the best on radio. My only song on radio, like ended up on Billboard on radio for Canada, ended up playing all across the country and shit like that. And then I was like, okay, like this is easy. All you got to do is just do shorter verses and put a singer on the hook, and then you're lit.
Yeah,
Like
you're
that's
like, I got a formula now.
yeah, basically what I thought it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
And then yeah, I spent like the next year of like trying to do that, and it was fucking horrible. And the thing that I realized was when we made that shit, we weren't trying to make that shit. It was organic. And then I think when you get lost in, yo, I have to make something like this because it's gonna get these streams, or you're gonna have to make this with this catchy part that's gonna do well on TikTok that you can dance to. Once you start getting into that, I feel like you lose sight of the natural process and you're watering down the art, to me, anyways. So I don't know. To me, I kind of just do what I feel that day, regardless of anything. Um, I do what I want to hear, what I think is dope, and then chances are if I'm speaking from the heart, there's a lot of other people in the world that's going to relate to it.
Mhm.
Um, And that's basically my formula. I try not to get too caught up in, yo, I need to make this song for the radio or TikTok or like, I feel like if you're just naturally creating and you got your head down and you're working every day and you keep firing, like you're gonna make a variety of records because you're gonna be in different every day, and
Yeah.
your mood is going to reflect the song. And you might write something one day you're depressed, going through a breakup, or you might write something, when you come home from the club one night, buzzed up. Those songs are going to sound totally different. And I think that if you just trust the process and stay low and keep firing, you can make those choices on where those records are going to live after the fact, not before they're made. Because I feel like before you make something, if you try to put yourself in a box or box yourself in, it's just gonna end up terrible, and you're gonna be frustrated. You know.
Yeah, it's
So
gonna
I'd
definitely
rather
come
make
out
those decisions
inauthentic.
after, like, yo, this is where this fits. Like this one I could hear on the radio, not yo, let me try to make something for the radio.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Now, when you're making roses, are you because I said this before. I had my buddy 11 on who's like he's a rapper, but he also does he does a lot of like improvised freestyle, like think kind of like Harry Mack.
Hmm.
And just incredible to watch him do that as well. Like very,
Yeah.
very talented in that regard. And he came out with an album recently called Secondary School, and the whole thing is about like his time during high school, basically.
Hmm.
And whenever I tell people to listen to albums, I'm like, listen it from the start to the end because it's a
Yeah.
story that the artist is trying to tell. Like, don't shuffle that shit. Like a movie, you wouldn't throw in a movie and skip to the middle and then go back to the beginning and then watch the ending. That would fuck up the whole experience, right? So when you're making roses, did you design it with the intention of like I'm going to make the first song and then the second song is going to follow that song, or did you kind of start with a bunch of ideas and then try to pull them together after
Yeah,
you've
after I just was making records, and there's like shit, there's a lot more records that's like not on the project. So I was just making records. And then like two records might be similar vibe, or they might be talking about the same subject matter. Then it comes down
mm,
to like, all right, which one's better? Like, does this articulate that piece better, or does this? And then when you get all the final records or all the pieces, then I chose the order last, to be honest with you. I chose the order last. I chose the order probably like 3 or 4 days before I uploaded it to streaming. And that just came from like, okay, how does this story go? And also sonically too, because I find you can't just lean on like the story. You have to think of both, because some people are like casual listeners, or they just, their ears gravitates towards sonics first rather than,
mm-hmm.
so it has to fit like content wise and sonically. So you're kind of playing double dutch on how to pick that order. And I was doing that for like 3 days, just putting them in a whatever in a playlist and seeing which one sounds good after each other, and what would make sense lyrically after each other. And I feel like I picked the right order. I'm confident in it. Yeah.
Nice. Now, am I mistaken? But I was trying to look through your Instagram to find it. But
Mhm.
were you doing like you, you were doing reviews or something a while back?
Yeah, we're still doing, I mean, obviously the album,
Yeah, that took precedence, right? Like you gotta.
super busy with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we still do it. We still got a few in the tuck. I gotta bring them back. But yeah, I just been so busy with the album, man. It's been tough to keep up with it. But yeah, a lot of
Sure.
people liked it, and a lot of people were drawn to me, through that, and then fell in love with the music. So it was just kind of another way to show
I
them.
think that's what happened with me. I was seeing a lot of those videos and I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I love this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I was like, let me go check out his music. And then I was like, oh, this is great too.
I feel like it's the yin and yang, because a lot of the music is like therapeutic, and a lot of the music
Yeah.
shit I'm trying to get off my chest, or things I'm going through, and it's kind of like a serious, more heavy nature. And that's not, I don't walk around all day like that, so it's like I
Just
want
emo as fuck.
yeah, I kind of want to show the balance
Yeah,
of it
yeah.
all too, which again is like roses, and it's like, yeah, like I'm a easygoing guy. I like to have fun. I like to joke. Um, And I like wordplay, and I was able to use a lot of the wordplay that, that brain, that part of my brain that will be responsible for wordplay within my music. I was able to put that into form of comedy, whether it's punchlines or puns or little stupid shit like that. Just the
The
witty.
two go together so well, man. Like
Yeah,
unbelievable. I
yeah,
now like since doing, there's only 10 songs on that album, but I probably did like 20 or 30 songs and then narrowed it down to the
yeah.
10 that I thought were like the best or whatever.
Mhm.
And then I haven't done it in like 2 years, because I've just been 100% focused back on stand-up comedy because all the clubs are open. But I've
Yeah.
noticed now on stage that my jokes have like beats to them. Like I can actually feel a rhythm of a joke where
Okay.
it's like in the context of like how I'm saying things, like there's a little bit of a rhythm to my words, and then there's a pause and then a punchline. It's
Do you
like,
feel like that helps you, or did that hurt you, or
oh, it
did it?
really helped me because it made me feel more comfortable on stage, and I think it added like personality to what I was saying. Because before I was always like, okay, don't forget all the words. And
Yeah,
then it was the performance was solely about like get out all the words that you
yeah,
wanted to say without even thinking about how that was sounding coming out of my mouth.
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
tone, the timing, like
The way I
it
can
really
relate,
helped with
the
timing.
way I can relate that to hip hop is, a lot of people where it's like if you just write a verse and you don't know it really well yet, and then you record it and it kind of you're just trying to get the words like you're just trying to read them off the paper. It almost sounds like, but then once you have all the words so far down that you're not even thinking about the words anymore, that's when you can really get into like, okay, now like how am I gonna say it? And I think how you say something is damn near almost more important, or if not just important, as what is being said,
Mm-hmm. Because you want conviction, right? Like you want
Of
people
course.
to believe you when you say those words. So you
Mhm.
have to have some sort of feeling or
If
belief in
you
what you're
don't believe
saying.
if you don't believe in it, they're definitely
They're
not.
definitely not going to believe in you. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So like you said you've been doing it for 18 years. So you started then pretty young, right?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
long, or if you're still searching, how long did you feel like it took you to find, your voice? People always say that there's a moment of kind of
And hon-
finding a pocket that you are like, this is me. Not a formula, but this is like how I want to come off,
honestly, this album, I won't
This
even lie.
album.
Like,
Wow. Okay.
like even my just like my delivery and everything, I feel like it wasn't mastered until this album. This album's where I listen back and I'm like, damn, you sound like 100% comfortable. And I think a lot of times before, one of the most common things with rap is like we tend to think that raising your voice brings more
Yeah.
conviction or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like that shit had me, I was doing that for years. Like, you know what I mean? Just say it a little louder and it feels like it's more conviction. And I think on this album is like the quietest, like the softest I've ever fucking spoke.
Mm.
And it's so much more powerful, it's just, I don't know what it is. It's like, I don't know, who are you gonna believe more? Is someone coming up to you yelling at you, I'm gonna fucking kill you, or someone whispers in your ear and is like, I'm gonna fucking kill you? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're like, oh, this guy's for real.
yeah,
He didn't
yeah,
even blink when he said that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what it's similar to acting. Like everything
Yeah,
I've heard about acting is they're like it's the very subtle things that they
yeah,
do with their face, like just small movements, because everything is so much bigger when you blow it up on a screen. And it's the same way with like
sure.
small inflections in your voice, like
Mhm.
that can translate so much.
Yeah, I remember a rapper, this is a little story, but I don't know if you know a rapper named Ransom, legendary rapper out of New Jersey. He'd been doing it for years, but this is probably like 10 years ago. Me and my buddy went to New York for this festival, Rock the Bells, and it was canceled. And we're like, damn, we already have everything there, hotel, everything. We're like, fuck, what are we gonna do? And I was like, I wonder how much Ransom charged for a verse or whatever. And then we like we're like, fuck it. We hit him up, and then he's like, yeah, come to my spot. We went to his spot in Jersey, and it was like, bro, it was kind of crazy because we're walking alone. It wasn't the best area, and like we get lost and we got to circle back. There's like a bunch of dudes huddled on the corner with like masks on and shit, and we're like, damn, are we gonna make it? And I don't know. Basically, we're just like, just look crazy, keep your head down. We got through whatever happened, but
That's what I always told people about walking in the streets of
uh,
Toronto. It's just like just look crazier than the craziest
look
person.
like you're on something or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so we did that. But he said something that I'll never forget. Because I remember he used to kind of yell a lot more, and he was playing me some music, and I was like, man, you sound so confident. And I was like, how does that, when am I gonna get that? Like, and he was 35 at the time, I believe, and he's like, man, 35. And it's funny because like that's the age I am now, like 10 years later, and putting this album out. And I always remember back to that, and I'm like, damn, he was right. Like this, it's exactly when it was.
Yeah.
It's
Because by
crazy.
35, you've seen some shit. You know what I mean?
I just think you
You're mature.
yeah, you're mature, you know yourself,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and you've done your 10,000 hours,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
probably recorded songs in so many different tones and flows and speeds and BPMs. And it's just like you have now a Rolodex. Like I have a Rolodex in my head on like what's gonna work and what's not gonna work now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, okay, I know if it's this kind of thing I'm saying, I could say this type of ad lib on it, it's gonna work. Or if it's this type of beat, or I remember this song I wrote 10 years ago that I never put out, and it had this line that would fit in this new song. You know what I mean? So it's just all just like an encyclopedia. And then
100%.
like every year goes by, just the more knowledge and more pages is in that book that you have to pull from. And that's where I feel like I'm at now. Like it's getting easier. This was the quickest album I've ever made. Usually it takes shit 1 to 2 years, whatever. I made this whole album in like 6, 8 months, man. And it
You
was
were
like,
firing on it then.
yeah, I was just going in, man. Like something came over me. So yeah, I think
Well,
it's just knowing more.
what I like about the album too is like, and I have such an issue with, I can't remember who was just talking about this recently. Somebody was on the Flagrant. Oh, it was Russ. Russ was on
Yeah.
Flagrant too, the podcast with Andrew Schultz, and he
Okay.
was talking about how there's rappers out there like Juice World said to, I think it was Future, and like I love Future, but like Juice World said to Future in like an interview, I started doing drugs because like you were talking about them in the songs. And meanwhile, Future doesn't do any of those drugs that he's like rapping about like in his
Yeah,
music.
I saw this clip. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was like, and that's what I started to now appreciate about certain artists that I listen to. Like when I listen to my buddy 11, he's talking about like consciousness and like it's him. Like you listen to it and you're like, this is his life. Like this is what he thinks about all the time. Meditation, weed, whatever it is. But
Mhm.
he's speaking his truth. And I feel like it's the exact same when I listen to you. It sounds sincere. And I think that is going to be a major turning point for a lot of like fans of artists is we've seen enough of the bullshit. Like, we all know that Instagram is just a highlight reel and not the reality. So I
Mhm.
think like, well, the reason why people blow up on TikTok, most of the time people blowing up on TikTok are a random person and they're just being authentic. They're just being sincere and they get millions of views or millions of likes or whatever. Do you
Mhm.
think that's starting to kind of take shape with hip hop now?
I mean, I think it just depends on what type of artist you are. For me, that's what it is. Like that's the only way I know how to sound good is to be me. Like if I'm not being sincere, like I'll mess around and try to make some shit that I'll be like, all right, this is gonna be TikTok or whatever. Like, oh, of course,
Yeah.
dabble around. And it never works. Like I said, it just never works. Or it's like the listener is not stupid, man. They can see through or read through or get that sixth sense on when you're being sincere or not. And then you might be the type of artist that's like the chameleon and you're just so naturally gifted, like you could sound like anyone. And I know people like that, like you're just so naturally entertaining and talented and you could do any flow and have any subject matter and it
Hmm.
doesn't even matter. At the end of the day, like I understand both sides. Like I understand that it is entertainment, and there's a lot of people that are very, very talented and entertaining, um, that are able to entertain without necessarily talking about their lives. And I think that's the same for any other music. We never question a song about like a rock and roll song. I shot the sheriff. Like, fuck, did he really
Sure.
shoot
Yeah, yeah,
me?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
he's capping. He didn't shoot the sheriff.
yeah.
We
This guy's
don't,
admitting to murder on a song.
we don't do that, you know? And I feel like hip hop
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is
It's the
held,
same thing with comedy though, right? Like people
held
take
accountable.
comedy literally and it's like it's not.
It's
It's a
crazy.
joke. Yeah,
Hip
yeah.
hop is held accountable higher, way higher than other.
Uh-huh.
Now
Yeah.
I feel like even on the Young Thug case, like they're reading his lyrics
That's insane.
in court and all that shit, bro.
But
So
it's making for the funniest kind of commentary though, because they'll ask him like, like what does this acronym like stand for? Or like what does this mean? And he'll just you can just see him like making it up on the spot. He's like, yeah, it means we all love each other.
that's
Like it's just
exactly. Quick,
he just trying to say, I can't remember who it was. I don't know. There was some rapper that's like in trial right now. I don't know if it was Young Thug, but like his lawyer or his attorney also got charged on like gang related charges
I
at
don't
the
know. I
same
haven't I
time.
haven't been following it, man.
Insane.
I see this some of the things that pop up on my shit, but again, I try to just
YSL. That's who it was.
try to watch my diet, and that's like things not
That's
that
the
I'm
only thing
eating,
you're watching.
but like things that I'm consuming. Like that's also part of your diet, like your mental, what you're consuming. And I try not to consume any of the negativity as much anymore,
Hmm.
you know, even though it can be entertaining and this and that, but I try not to as much, you know.
I hear you, man. It seeps into everything else in your life too. Kind of,
Sure.
it can affect you without you even really knowing that it's affecting you.
1000%.
Yeah,
1000%,
yeah.
like, you know.
Do you have a favorite song on your album? Like
No,
one that means a lot to you or
I don't know. I lately I've been saying Let Me Win. I really like that one. And it's crazy because I was looking the other day, or maybe it was today, and I think it's like the third lowest streamed, and I think it
it's
was
always how it goes.
my favorite. Yeah. So it's kind of funny, but yeah, that one's my favorite for sure. Right now,
Nice.
I think.
What about that song made it your favorite? Maybe
Damn,
we'll get those streams up, giving an exclamation. I love the behind the scenes story. I find that always helps direct people to things.
man, it's super in depth of like what ifs, and I feel like it's my best writing ever. And the way it's put together and the way I'm asking these what if questions, like what if this never happened, what if that never happened, and the way it's all structured together, I think is my best writing ever. And the last four bars of each verse is like, or the last two bars is like, I've been through so much pain, grief, stress, and sin. I swear it feels like God about to let me win. And it's kind of like just goes into this epic fucking shit with the electric guitar. You gotta hear it, you gotta go back and listen to it. But the way each verse leads into the hook, I think it's some of my best writing. And musically, I just love the sonics of it as well. So I think it's on both counts. It's one of my favorites.
Wonder if I can play it. Let me win. Let's play a little bit of it for the audience here. Let me share. This is a wonderful day for me to podcast too. I guess they're doing construction or something on the unit next to me. So I keep hearing like drills and hammering.
Not here, so good.
I did a podcast yesterday and it was much worse. It sounded like they were jackhammering. And then I listened to the recording and it was totally fine. So Zoom does an excellent job at like getting out those added noises.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
so this is Let Me Win by Quake Matthews. We're just going to preview a little bit for you so I don't get copyright striked. Is it playing? Do you hear it?
Hey yo, I
Yeah.
move how I
Yeah, I'm not hearing
Yeah, a little rough around the edge and shit, but I can be
I want
smooth
to
when I
fast forward a little bit.
make this
Oh,
white tee look
got it.
elegant. And they said the
Let me fast forward. Where's a good spot to bring it to?
Oh, I'll go up a little bit just to get into it, maybe like 45 something. Yeah,
Yeah, there we go.
get and just let them on. What if that DJ never threw that record on in that bar where they first danced in each other's arms? Shit, I guess that we'll never know. All I know is they sun is about to change the globe. The smile on my face is encased by heaven's glow, cause worry dissipates when your faith is set in stone. I hear them whisper my accomplishments and scream all my faults through a megaphone. Twitter characters dissing me with characters, but when it comes to my character, shit was never in question, no. What if when I was 17, I never dissed the biggest artist in the universe? Would he check for me or even have respect for me? Shit, he probably wouldn't know me at all. Damn, what if that club never let them get the weapons in? And I could talk to my best friend again. I've been through so much pain, grief, stress, and sin. I swear it feels like God about to let me win. I swear it feels like God about to let me win. I think God might let me win. I swear it feels like God about to let me win. I've been through so much pain, grief, stress, and sin. I swear it feels like love.
Dude,
You know?
character triple entendre that you had in there.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Thanks, man.
I love that. Yeah, that is excellent writing.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. That's my favorite. I think so.
Yeah, yeah. I gotta make sure people go listen to that. So I love doing like a little preview too. I had when 11 did his album, we even did like a whole like track by track kind of breakdown where we just listen to each one and then sort of talk about each track on there. Is there any other tracks on the album that like you want to provide context to for fans of yours or listeners, or because stories like behind the scenes stuff, like I said, add so much more impact when you're listening to it, at least for me as a listener.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're all of them, man. I don't feel like there's a weak song on there or like a song that doesn't mean something to me on there. So it's tough. It's tough to choose one. But yeah, I don't know. All of them, man. Even that song, like we if you want to talk about that song, I'll talk about that song all day. To Let Me
Yeah,
Win.
yeah, yeah. Let's talk about that more.
Mhm. Like I don't know. I fuck with it, man. It's crazy. Like what I say, what if when I was 17, I never dissed the biggest artist in the universe? Like even there, like when I was 17, I was we were doing like rap beefs and disses with Drake. You know, he would have been 19 at the time. It's like, what if I never jumped into that? He wouldn't know who I am now. And it's like, it's crazy. Or the line that follows that, what if that club never let them get the weapons in and I could talk to my best friend again? That's referring to Pat Stay, who was murdered here, battle rap legend.
Mhm.
So it's like it's just all the what ifs, I think is just it's pretty crazy, and they're all real too. Like it's not fabricated what ifs. It's all real. But yeah, go check the song if you haven't listened to it. Whoever's watching, definitely my favorite.
Yeah, it's powerful. And again, now that they know a little bit of like backstory on each of those what ifs and like the true nature of them, it adds more to it. Obviously, entertainment, right? At the basis, but it is nice when you can add a little bit of truth in there for sure. Now, a question that I always ask my guests is if you could make a phone call to a 15-year-old version of yourself. And the reason why I say 15-year-old version of you is because it's easier to put yourself in that mindset of who you were at that time, what you were doing at that time, where you were. So if you can even just think about that for a second
Yep.
of you at 15, phone rings, and it's you now on the other end of that phone. What you say to him is not going to impact your life whatsoever. Your life has already been decided. But you can give him a piece of advice. What do you say?
Keep going, man. Keep going. You're gonna see some crazy shit. You're gonna meet your heroes. You're gonna see parts of the world you never thought you would see. Never give up, because if you give up, none of that shit is gonna happen. And that's the only thing I would say. I don't think there's anything genius or anything that's like a hack, unless it was like told them the lottery numbers or some shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Invest in Bitcoin
Yeah,
and then get out early.
your allowance and put that shit into Bitcoin now.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Just make sure you sell that shit in 2021 before it drops again.
shit is creeping back up a little bit. I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, yeah. Oh
Like,
man.
no, it's just keep going. Like I don't think there's anything genius about it. Like people always ask me, like, "Dad, how do you get on, this many monthly listeners, or how do you get on this stage, or this, or how did you meet this person and that person?" I don't think there's any secret to it. It's just keep going, and there's never like one big thing that fucking defines your whole entire shit. I mean, there's moments and shit, but it's basically every little thing compounding and snowballing from every time you do this shit every day. And that's basically how it goes. And then shit gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
None of the hard work pays off if you quit. And the only way I seen Seth Rogen say the other day is like, he's like, you can give up and you're definitely not gonna make it. Or he's like, or you can keep going and you might not make it, but there's a chance. And so it's like there's not a chance if you give up. So
Hmm.
that's what I would say. Just keep going. And believe me,
Yeah.
there's so many times that I thought about giving up and quitting. Because it's hard, man. And
Of course.
as a comedian, like it's hard. Like the sacrifices I've done is crazy.
Yeah.
Like
But nothing good is ever easy, right?
no,
Like
no,
every time I listen to somebody's like success story, they always came from a horribly traumatic upbringing or something happened in their life. Like I've never once heard of someone coming from a very wealthy family and they had an excellent childhood and then they decided to get into art and they were massively successful. That's
yeah,
never without an ounce of trauma. You almost never hear of someone like being that way, right? At least someone that's respected by their given community. And
yeah,
by continuously working at something that brings you passion, all you're doing is creating an archive for your future fans to dig through and
yeah,
to go back and listen to. Like I started listening to this podcast called You Know What, Dude, with Robert Kelly. And he was on episode like 638, and I just found it.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, man, if he had stopped at like 300, I never would have found it because it wouldn't be there.
It's true,
You
man.
know?
It's what it is. Like that's man, that's the case, I think, out of everyone. Because if someone just really comes out of nowhere, then they don't last long because their foundation is weak and it's all gonna collapse and it's not gonna be any longevity. But anyone that we see that has stood the test of time or is gonna have any type of longevity has took the long way. There's no real shortcuts at all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm going to share your stuff here for people to check out. It's quakematthews.com. That's going to be your quick access to go check out Roses, which is also available on Spotify and Apple Music. Got some video content there as well. It's Quake Matthews on Instagram, at Quake Matthews on YouTube. Same thing for Twitter or X. And yeah, man, do you have anything else that you want to shout out?
Man, go stream Let Me Win. It's my favorite song, all real story. And,
Yeah. Let's
and
run those streams up on Let Me Win.
that one deserves it, man. That one deserves it.
Yeah, yeah, hell yeah. Well, man, it was great hanging with you and getting to meet you. I wish you nothing but the best. Of
No doubt. You as well, man. Thanks a lot for having me.
course. I'll send this to you when it's up.
Sounds good, bro.
All right, later, bro.
Take care, man. Peace.
You've been listening to The Johnny Rogers Show. New episodes air every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.